All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Community Fundraising Success Stories webinar. Thanks for being with us today. I'm Joy Schwartz with the Winnefox Library System, and my co-host today is Jean Anderson with the South Central Library System. Before I introduce our presenters, I have a few things to tell you. If you have a question, click or tap the Q&A icon on your Zoom toolbar and type in your question. There will be time to answer your questions at the end of each speaker's presentation. If you want to turn on closed captions or live transcription, on your Zoom toolbar, click or tap the CC closed caption icon and choose Show Subtitle or Live Transcript. The webinar is being recorded and will be available on both the NEWI and South Central websites by tomorrow. Actually, I may have it available for you a little bit later today. And tomorrow, I'll send you an email that links to those pages. With that, I'll introduce our presenters. We have three presenters today. First up will be Christy Ross. She's the director of Brandon Public Library, and Samantha Hetzler of Sun Prairie Public Library, also the director, and Heidi Cox, director of E.D. Locke Public Library in McFarland. So Christy, are you ready to go first?
Yes, I am. All right, so I get the honor to kick things off. I'm pretty excited. Thanks, Joy and Jean, for putting this on. For me to get started, let me just tell you a little bit about myself, my library community quick, and then I'll tell you about our fundraising and how we successfully got to the point we are. So like Joy said, my name is Christy Ross. I am the director at Brandon Public Library. I started as the director 12 years ago, fresh out of college. Brandon is a community just under 1,000 people. And our current library, I'm going to share my screen. I have a few pictures to show, so share screen. So our current library, we are actually just under 1,100 square feet as far as the main downstairs area. We do have an upstairs, a larger room. Otherwise, the upstairs is mostly our historical society. Here's our main level. You can pretty much walk in the front door, pretty much see everything. And it really looks like and reminds you of a large living room. I absolutely love it. But when I first started, it was easy to see we were out of space. We definitely couldn't provide for the community as much as we could and needed to. This building was actually built in 1897, different era for a different purpose. And I mean, we just made it work and fit our needs. The Brandon Library started in this very building in 1913, opened for the first time, opened its doors. Like I said, it was clear we were out of space. And when I first started, we actually had a CD that was given to us, maybe even like 25 years ago from when I started, with money designated for a bigger space. Whether we expanded, whether we moved locations, it was money designated for enlarging the library. Then in about, I'd say maybe 2015, so making up some of the dates, it's all kind of COVID throws things off. We actually had a gentleman approach us. He grew up in Brandon. However, he lives just outside the Twin Cities now. He approached us. He's got some strong connections to Brandon. He absolutely loves the library. And he said, if you guys raise $100,000, we will match it. He was able to receive those funds. He actually had a close friend of his pass away and gave his estate to this gentleman and his wife to use how they saw fit. And Brandon Library, like I said, had these strong connections, and we benefited from it. So right there would be 200,000. We could not pass up this opportunity. So like I said, there were a few years that were a blur. I was actually sick for a few years. But when we were getting started to raise money, it was 2018, I started a friends group. I knew we needed a core group to help us raise the funds, to become a 501c3 because that's where we'll get the most grants. People want to give to a nonprofit, even though, you know, giving to a library is tax deductible. The 501c3 was huge. We got a great core group, but we quickly saw that a friends group running pie sales or broad fries was not going to raise the money that we needed. So we finally made the decision. We hired a professional fundraising consulting marketing group, however you want to call them. We actually hired Baker Street Consulting Group. Fantastic. When they first got on board, it was probably November 2019. They got us organized. They told us how this whole process works. We were all new to it. Not only myself, like I said, this was my first job out of college, but my board, nobody has done a campaign. Same with the friends. So we had everyone's support. We just didn't know what we were doing, spinning our wheels too long. We got this consulting group to come in. They, like I said, got us organized. They got everyone on the same page. He said, you need to go out to the public with the same story, the same plan, not only the library board, the village board, the friends, just so the community knows what the plan is, what they're supporting, what they're giving their money towards, how it will help, how you guys will better serve the community. Just having, whether it's like that elevator speech, you need to let people know what's going on. What we did was we needed, I don't know, lack of better terms, we needed a group of solicitors. So people who would help us go out to the businesses or potential high donors, share our story and try to raise the funds that we needed. He said, you know, with this plan, he gave us this whole administrative guide, you know, how to accept different funds, sending out the thank yous. So, you know, we'll get a thank you not only from the person making the ask, but the library will then also thank them. So he really, you know, this company really laid out nicely how we are going to reach people, how we make that ask. And really, it's not asking for money. It's really sharing our story. So, I mean, that was very helpful. Trained everyone, you know, we hired them in November of 2019, and we actually had a plan of raising the funds we needed. So at that time, we needed to raise 500,000. And what we would be doing, let me just go back, is that alleyway on the right-hand side, you can see there's darker brick there. We would be closing in that alleyway. That would be doubling the size of our library. So let me actually just open up another. I hope it doesn't stop sharing. This toolbar is in the way. So that might be helpful. What is this one? Let's open up this one first. So we're going to be doubling the size of our library. If you guys could see this, I don't know if you guys could see my mouse, but you could see kind of like this thicker dashed line. That's where our existing wall is. Here's where our existing back is. So here's the whole alleyway we would be adding. So it would actually be doubling the size of our library. That would be a huge amount of space. And, you know, making it better handicap accessible, giving us 2 restrooms that are way larger than the ones that we have. Going out with the same story that, you know, we're adding computers, we're adding shelf room, we're adding the seating space, extra tables and workspace. So having all of that was very helpful. They also suggested we needed to go out and actually, gosh, you have this dumb toolbar on the way. Oh, there we go. We needed to get a whole brochure to share what our plan is, where we're at. So I actually hired, it was a marketing graphic designer to come up with this. Obviously I gave her all the pictures. You could see the brick on the back of that front page is actually the brick from the side of our building. So it really ties into our story. Just coming up with the naming opportunities and the recognition opportunities, the how to donate. And then as you can see, it's just sharing our story that, you know, our building is extremely old, and in 1913, the library opened up for the first time. So our plan is we are on the historic registry, not only the state, but the national registry. And we're expanding this space, but we want to keep the same historic feel. We don't all of a sudden want to go modern. I know these pictures, I said, I feel like I'm kind of trying to sell an ugly house, but that's just really showing our space, but we are keeping that historic kind of living room feel. So we spent a few months getting everything in order. We got this pamphlet, we got, our whole plan in order, how many large level gifts we needed, all the way down to how many of the small level gifts we needed to officially reach our $500,000 goal by October of 2020. Well, we all know what happened in March, shut our plan. So we actually took a break from our consulting group because there was for a while, not only were purse strings pulled a little tighter, but we couldn't meet. We did meet, via Zoom a few times, but meeting with potential donors via video or calling just wasn't the same. And like I said, with the economy, not sure where it's going to go, we just took a little bit of a break from raising funds. At that same time, I guess I'll fill you in, our middle school was actually proposed to be closing. So we have an elementary and middle school here in town, and our high school is actually the next town over. So we kind of have a shared district. So it was proposed that all of our middle schoolers would be going over near the high school. They have a middle school over there. A lot of my volunteers actually kind of dropped out of my campaign to help fight that fight. Totally understood. It just kind of dragged on our break a little bit longer than we intended. Unfortunately, the middle school did close. But, at the same time, you kind of, people were wondering like, oh, do we need this larger library? Do we need this larger space? But what they really have to think, and what we kind of, tweaked our campaign is, yes, we do. We still have these students here. Now there's going to be a bus full of middle schoolers who don't have the same resources that they did when they had their school here. So they're going to be coming to the library. They do now, and they're going to be bringing their Chromebooks, and they need that seating space. They need the quiet space. They need the resources that they might not get at home. It was funny. I had Joy, who you met this morning, or earlier in this PowerPoint. She came out to make sure that all the tech stuff works. There is zero reception in Brandon. So, in these rural areas, that's what you run into. So the library is that crucial. It's such a needed space, and it's nice that people see the use and get out of it, the resources that we provide. So that's the story we went with. For our campaign, we got a group of cabinet members, like I said, lack of better terms, solicitors. So I probably invited 25 people. We actually had this inaugural meeting where our consulting company kind of explained what we had going on and the story of the library, even though they all knew it, but just what we're going out with and why this is so crucial. And like I said, we actually did not have a feasibility study, but after this consulting group kind of went around, I think he did 20 interviews to key people in town. So not only people that utilized the library, people that didn't. He interviewed business owners, families, single people. He just wanted a wide variety. So it wasn't technically a full out feasibility study, but he just wanted to get a feel for, was this needed and can we make this happen? Because we're such a small community, $500,000 is a lot to raise. Since COVID happened, it was probably November of 2020. We went back to our engineering company and we said, okay, what are our numbers looking at now? And he said, probably more like 650. So of course our goalpost moved a little bit. So now we're trying to raise $650,000. Everyone being in the same boat understood that that happened. So we got back on track. We had a group of solicitors, and at this inaugural party, when they signed up to help us volunteer to raise these funds, we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to make this, burden on any one person. The more people we could get to help us, not only the better, but it was just reaching out to key donors, people and businesses we thought we could potentially get money from. And obviously you kind of want to scope them out. So we had a list of potential donors and sat down with all solicitors and asked them who they felt most comfortable talking to. So whether they knew them or utilized that business or that insurance company or, shopped there, whatever the case may be, we just kind of divided up this whole list amongst all of the solicitors. They were trained, like I said, how to meet with a potential donor, how to make the ask, how to follow up if needed, and thanking them for their time or following up, whether it was thanking them for their time or their donation. So as things came in, initially I didn't have one, but it was, soon after we got started, we recognized that we needed an expansion treasurer, we called them. So every time money came in specifically for the expansion, it went to one person. It wasn't, muddled up in the friends or muddled up into the, library funds. We had total separate accounts, and it was really nice. And that was one thing I was happy about. And I wish I started that a little bit earlier, had one person totally in charge of all funds. So we had that going, identifying the outreach, the solicitors, and we reached our goal of $650,000 November of 2021. So we're super excited about that. Then, not knowing if we would get to that, it was kind of like a slow climb. We didn't have our blueprints down and totally set. We have a layout, so you can see our layout, but we didn't have everything set. Before I jump to that though, let me just go back to kind of, the fundraising part. So what I did when we went around and, large checks were coming in from different businesses, we wanted to make sure they got the recognition that they needed. And so I got one of those large checks. So I made sure every time, a business or an organization donated, we made sure that we took a picture of a large check. Every month in our newsletter, I not only made sure people knew where we were as far as the campaign, coming up with a design, making subtle changes, whatever it was, I just made sure we were pretty transparent. So, like I said, I did this for all organizations that wanted this. But what was nice is I also did it with kids. It was so adorable when a child comes in and says, this is my allowance for this week. I want to make sure that this library happens. They're just handing over even $5. I just, take their picture. This gentleman here had a lemonade and cookie stand, and I don't know if you could see it. Do I have to zoom in? Here we go. All money goes to the Brandon Library. So, it was these cutest stories that, just shows the support. Now I lost, there we go. Just goes to show that we had the support from the community, the kids, everyone just trying. So like I said, we reached our goal. Here, I actually put one of those thermometers. I put all the pictures, the layout and everything. You could see that right when you walk into the library. You can see this is an older picture where our arrows pretty much down at the bottom. During this time, I also made a lot of visits to other libraries who have done campaigns. I fell in love with Princeton Public Libraries. This is their donor board. When you walk into their library, this is kind of in their little lobby. We won't have that. But, you know, the thicker books are the bigger donors. The smaller books are the smaller donations. I just thought that was the cutest idea, and that's something that I want to copy from them.
Christy, we didn't have a chance to see the Princeton display you were talking about.
You don't see it right now?
Not right now. We're seeing the front of your library, which you've got the thermometer.
There. So I see it on mine. How about, let's see, what number is it?
Oh, yeah, I see we saw the big checks.
Okay,
and...
wait, it's gonna be one of these. Here we go. This one. Now do you see it? Oh, wait, it says I'm paused. Wait, stop sharing. I'm gonna reshare.
Okay. It looks like the Zoom toolbar was in front. There, yeah, we're seeing it now.
There we go. Okay, so that's Princeton Public Library's donor board. I don't know if you could see when I zoom in. So, I mean, it just looks like a bookshelf, totally adorable, something I want to copy. So yeah, just going around, making sure we had all that. So as our timeline continues, we finally reached our $650,000 goal. So sitting down with our engineer and architect, and I'm sure the goalpost probably moved even more, but we said, this is the funds we have. Let's come up with a plan that fits that money, design it, put it out for bid. So I think we're getting a little greedy. So the person that came up, you know, approached us with that $100,000 match is getting a little older, and I want to see him see this expansion. I want to make sure that both him and his wife can see this expansion. They live outside the Twin Cities. So, I mean, even traveling is a little bit difficult for them. So we wanted to put it out for bid, and we got it out for bid probably at the wrong time of the year. It went out in June of this year. We had a 2-week open window, and only one bid came back, and it was 30% too high. So it was unfortunate. At the point we are right now, we still have the $650,000. We continue to do outreach. We have grants. We have a major grant writer. I was so fortunate to have someone who really dove into not only finding, but writing grants. He continues to seek more and more. We continue to share our story. I continue to put out, you know, a little donation button in all of our e-newsletters, along with, you know, the latest update. And like I said, we just keep on continuing. We plan on putting it out for bid again this fall. So we have a committee of 3 village members, 3 library board members, and myself. And we just want to make sure that we have a plan, fits the budget, and we could get this thing built. So you can see that it's been a long time in the making. Hopefully you can see this. Hopefully you see that, but there is going to be our expansion. Hope to have that next summer, get started. I mean, at this point, I think I could take any questions that anyone has. I see a few Q&As come in, but
right. Are you able to see the questions? Otherwise, I can just read them aloud for you.
Here we go. Chrissy, great info. What do you think about the most persuasive argument you were able to make with people who might not have been in favor of expanding the library? Also, did the Village of Brandon have to raise taxes? Thank you. So when we came up, that's a great question. When we came up with the need to expand, we had the $100,000 match. We first made the approach to the Village of Brandon. We said, you know, we cannot let this slip between our fingers. We know we've been just trying to make this work for so long. And they came back at us and said they're in full support, but they will not give us $1. We have to raise it all on our own, whether it's, you know, just seeking local donations, grants, whatever. They said, we back you up, but unfortunately we can't give you a penny. And what was nice actually is our village board president, or AKA, I guess, our mayor, being that we're a village, it's a president. He was actually one of our solicitors. And I mean, we had their support, they helped us out. But like I said, they just didn't have the money for it. And I totally get it. So we did it all on our own. Now going out to people who might not have been in favor, again, I think it's just sharing pictures, sharing what we do, sharing how crowded the library was. So, I mean, that was only one picture that I showed. If I can go back into, I think it was number 3. I mean, I kept getting pictures every time people were kind of like on top of each other. You know, I just shared kind of those stories. Kids, whether they were working on homework or projects or reading to each other. But I think, you know, also one of our problems, I kept expanding more and more on our programs. So I have Lego Club, I have movie nights, we have preschool story time, we had regular book clubs. But you know what's funny is even our own library board meetings, we can't do anything in our actual library. We don't even have our board meetings in our library. I have it at Village Hall. I've utilized the school. I've utilized churches. We've done programs out in the park. Otherwise, I mean, even right now, I'm sitting in Village Hall because our library is open and we don't have a space where I could sit quietly and have this webinar. So once again, we only have this, if you could see my shared, we only have one table. Otherwise, we have a kids table in the back. So I think people saw the need. I'm not sure if people weren't really in favor. It might have just been really the money aspect. Like, we cannot help you out, which, okay, I understand. So I think that was kind of the biggest hiccup that we ran into. Sorry, what was it?
And actually, Christy, because we want to leave a little time for the other 2 presenters, if you want to type your answers into the questions and answers.
Sure, I didn't even see what time I was at. Yep, I will let the next person go. I'll mute myself, and if anybody has any more questions, feel free to write them in.
Yep, go ahead and put those questions in, and Christy can answer them by answering within the Q&A panel. And then I think, Sveta, it is your turn if you want to do share your screen, or we can switch to not screen sharing.
Oh, I have to turn that off? Okay, there we go.
Okay. There you go. Cool.
All right, thanks everyone. I'll mute myself.
Thanks, Christy, and thanks everyone. Thank you to Jean and Joy for arranging this. I love what Christy shared, and I think some of that is very similar, you know, being able to create that story with your fundraiser, with the people that you're hoping to get funds from, and then creating those relationships, I think is really important. We have just started a capital campaign, so I can't share a success story of a capital campaign just yet, but I think I can share some other success stories that have been able to bring us to this point. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Oh wait, sorry, not that. And can everyone see this?
Looks good.
All right, great. I'm just gonna just get this to this. So I can't see my toolbar.
There you go.
All right, so yes, Sun Prairie Public Library fundraising. Not advancing. There we go. So yeah, so we have had a pretty successful history of fundraising at the Sun Prairie Public Library, but I have to give credit to our friends of the Sun Prairie Public Library and our Sun Prairie Public Library Foundation. The Friends have been in existence since the 80s for the Sun Prairie Public Library. And in fact, the Friends were the instrumental fundraising group for our current library. They raised over $2 million for our current library, which was just over a $5 million project. And that was back in 1998, 1999. The Sun Prairie Public Library Foundation was established kind of in response to the new library, knowing that a strong fundraising arm was going to be needed for the library's future. So the Sun Prairie Public Library Foundation was established just after this library was built. So the end of 1999, early 2000. So our Friends do most of their fundraising through book sales. They have a used bookstore. Pre-pandemic, they raised pretty steadily between $20,000 and $23,000 annually. Obviously, 2020, 2021 were much lower, just a couple of $1,000s, but already this year we're at about 10.5 K, so just short of $11,000. So we won't be where we were pre-pandemic, but it looks good. Memberships are also strong. Prior to between 2008 and 2015, our memberships ranged anywhere between $1,000 and $2,000, but there was a big push from some of our Friends members to do membership drives, and they had some changes in fee structure, and they included a lifetime membership in their fee structure. So between 2017 and 2021, the membership doubled and in some case tripled, and not necessarily because we had more members. There were a few more, but not that many more. So we were actually at like $5,000 or $6,000 for that. And then of course, those gifts that we receive. Oops, sorry. Can't see my screen here, sorry. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I'm just going to leave this up here. All right, so yeah, and then obviously gifts from patrons and from service clubs bring in a little more money for us almost annually. When the foundation started, they had their big event, which was the Book in It Run, and that started in 2003. And between 2014 and 2019, depending on sponsorships and registrations, the net profit of the event was anywhere from $16,000 to $27,000. So, but then in 2020, obviously with the pandemic, we took a pause on that, and we haven't resumed actually the Book in It Run. In 2012, the Library Foundation added a second event, a spring gala. And it was, kind of like the fancy spring gala that had a lot of auction items, art items, a time to have appetizers, wine. And that typically brought in anywhere between $12,000 and $20,000 for the foundation annually. And again, we did that until 2020, until March of 2020. We actually had a gala planned for March 14th, 2020, and obviously had to cancel that. But during that time, actually in 2018 is when the Sun Prairie Public Library took on an architectural analysis, knowing that we were going to be expanding. Our library was 20 years old, and we knew, just like Christy had shared, we were really outgrowing our space. The community, since the library was built in 1998, has grown by 80%. So we really have outgrown that space, not just in terms of space, but obviously changing services. And we knew that there would be a capital campaign component with this. So we actually worked with Library Strategies, and I know Jean had shared that Library Strategies will be here next week. So we we did work with Library Strategies on a development plan, and they worked with the library board directly, but then we had an all-day retreat with our friends and foundation just to get a better understanding of our fundraising capacity. And through the report that they developed for us, a development plan in 2019, one of their strategies was that we were burning our volunteers out with all of the events, and that we had to have a different focus for our fundraising. And the other nugget that they gave us was that we were ready to become a little more professionalized for our foundation, and that we should be considering the hiring of an executive director, maybe starting out with a part-time executive director for the foundation. So we took that advice and we did do that. We hired our first part-time executive director right before the pandemic started. So that was unfortunate, but through their work, we were able to increase our focus on appeals, the fall appeal and spring appeal, which we had never had a spring appeal, and be less events based. So we did that. But I will say the events for the library were really good. What they did was they helped us build a cohort of consistent donors that we've been able to continue relationships with. And so those were their recommendations to get a executive director on board. And I'm happy to say we now actually have a full-time executive director. Our part-time executive director moved out of state, and it was an opportunity to rethink, and the recruitment of a part-time executive director was tough. So the decision was made to go full-time with the recruitment of an executive director, especially knowing we were heading into a capital campaign, and then obviously shifting those fundraising efforts. So during the pandemic, I know we're still in the pandemic, but during the height of it, 2020 and 2021, the Friends pivoted and did some eBay book sales. It took them out of their comfort zone, but they've done really well with their eBay book sales. I think they've made this year alone just over $2,000. $2,200, and their total book sales through eBay have been $3,800. So it's been a good experiment, and we've got a cohort of 4 volunteers that run the eBay book sales. And the foundation moved away from events and focused more on those appeals. One piece of advice from our foundation is investing in donor management software and accounting software. They had been using QuickBooks, which I'm sure everyone is pretty familiar with, but then they also moved to what they call donor management software, and they use Bloomerang, and it helps to tie the two together. So that works really well. And as I said, the bookstore is for the Friends of the Library is now open. So now they're still continuing with the eBay, and that just helps generate a different customer base. And now we've also begun the silent phase of our capital campaign. In 2022, we did resume our gala. It wasn't as big as previous years, but we were, instead of net profiting between $12K and $20K, it was more in the area of $8,500. We've also had, through the capital campaign and attention on the library, other small businesses wanting to contribute. So Flavors is a wine bar in Sun Prairie, and they did a completely in-kind donation, which probably amounted to about $1,000 to the gala for our cork pull. And then Dairy Queen out of the blue asked if they could do a fundraiser for the library. So like I said, doing all of these things, these events has actually generated a cohort of interested community members and individuals as well as businesses. And we are in our capital campaign. And like Christy said, it's been really great to work with the consultant. We are working with Sweeney Group. And right now, and I believe Sweeney Group will be at WLA presenting on this specific event that they have trademarked. It's called 100 Extraordinary Women. The idea behind the event is that 100 women, or and it's not exclusive to women, it could, people that are not women can also participate in honor or of a woman. But the idea behind it is that you would make a pledge of $1,000. So 100 extraordinary women would collectively raise $100,000. So we're in the middle of working on that event, which is scheduled to begin October 6th, and that will be the official launch of the campaign, even though we're working silently right now with individual donors. And we did do a feasibility study. So our campaign goal is 3.5 million, and our city is contributing a large portion, 16.5 million. It'll be in total a $20 million project. So, and then obviously, as we move forward in the campaign, we'll have more opportunities for bigger public events. And we are actually going to look into Beanstack. They have these reading fundraisers. We haven't looked too deeply into it, but we're excited about possibilities there because we do have a really robust youth summer library program. And actually, our adult summer library program has become more robust because of Beanstack. And I don't want to take up any more time because I know we want to hear from Heidi, but I have my information there, and I'll leave it there.
Thank you so much, Svetha. That was great. Heidi, are you ready to go next?
Yep, I'm ready.
Excellent.
I don't have any slides. It's just going to be me talking, and I'll try to make this kind of quick. My experience is I've been a librarian for 20 years and a director for 16 in the last 10 at the McFarland Library. I've been doing fundraising on and off since probably around 2008 at the library I used to work at. We did a capital campaign. Our goal was to raise 1.25 million, and we surpassed that by about, I think, just like 10-20% of that. In 2019 at my current library, we did an endowment campaign with our community foundation. And then just this year, working with the McFarland Community Festival, the library is partnering with the festival, and we raised $30,000 for that. So, and then we also do kind of what I call like incidental fundraising, where we always look for sponsors for programs and things like that. And so we've been doing that like kind of constantly. And I enjoy fundraising. It allows us to create great partnerships within our communities. And, you know, as a director, I'm kind of a pencil pusher, so it allows me to get out and meet people. And it also has created some new opportunities for programming and other programs, kind of more outreach stuff into our community. And I've done all these different types of fundraising, and the things that all three types of fundraising have in common are your committee, getting the right people on your committee. So someone told me early on that you want to look for work, wealth, and wisdom. So someone who's going to stuff the envelopes, someone who hopefully has done some fundraising before, and then the wealth. You want that name recognition that you can use out into your community. When we've done the larger fundraising, we've always done challenge grants where we had donors who would say, and like Christy kind of talked about this too, who would come forward and say, I'll give you 100,000 if you can raise 100,000. And people really like to feel like for every dollar that they give, you know, it's being matched. So there's a lot more power there. We also did a lot of events and mailings. That doing events, it's very time consuming. You generally don't raise a ton of money, but sometimes you can really get a lot of like great library feelings out of it. For example, at my old library, I had this brilliant idea of doing a birthday party for Shakespeare. So we got a cake, we got an actor dressed as Shakespeare who came totally in character, didn't break at all the entire night. I sold tickets and we sold a handful, and everyone said, well, at the last minute, you'll get all these extra people coming. Well, they didn't. And then it poured. We had record-breaking rain that night. So 3 people came. And I was disappointed, but the 3 people who were there had an awesome time. And a week later, one of them, she was not a known donor to us. And a week later, she came back and gave us a check for $60,000 and said, I didn't know what a great experience, all the value that libraries could add to the community. So that's one of the reasons that we do them. And then it also gives an opportunity for people who don't have a lot of money to kind of participate in your library. Let's see. I wanted to quick touch on at McFarland, we have a friends group and we have an endowment. And I know I've worked in that situation in other libraries, and sometimes they feel like they're pitted against each other. So if you have that situation, my advice is we cultivated a culture of the friends money is money that gets spent kind of more immediately. And then endowment is created for the long term, more, people who leave bequests and things like that. So we just asked our donors, what is your goal? Do you want us to be able to use it now if we have an immediate need, or do you want it something that isn't important to you, that this is something that can grow and be there for the future? And so that way we've been able to partner the 2 groups so they don't feel like there's competition with the different ways that they're each fundraising. And lastly, I just wanted to touch on, after going through this now, 3 or 4 times, some of the emotional aspects of fundraising. If you're going to do this, just be aware that you're going to have days where you feel like you're on top of the world and everything's going great. And then you're going to have days where you're just like despair, where you think there's no way that this money will ever be raised. So just kind of like let yourself have those feelings. Also, the fact that wealth is relative, and you can see people in your community, and they have like large homes or drive very expensive cars or whatever. And when you get to talk to them, you'll realize they don't always see themselves as having wealth. And sometimes they'll come back to you and, you'll think, okay, this person will give us $1,000 and really they give 100. So, that kind of helped me kind of keep, I would say, like a distance from all of that, you don't get hung up on those types of things. That's about all I have for. Is there any questions?
We don't have any questions in right now, but certainly, folks, if you have a question for any of our presenters, go ahead and add them in the Q&A panel on your Zoom toolbar.
And I had a question for Heidi. Do you want to tell us what your current fundraising project is that you're doing right now?
Sure. So the library is partnering as part of the McFarland Community Festival, which is like, there's a carnival, there's a beer tent, it's a 4-day kind of extravaganza. And we inherited this from another group. It kind of had become defunct in 2019. So we inherited debt, but we managed to turn it around. And now I think as of this morning, we raised like $32,000. So we have a lot of partners in the community, and we'll be able to carry the festival forward. And if you're in Dane County, McFarland's best known for being a bedroom community to Madison. So we're not like a destination necessarily. There's not a lot of reasons, besides the library, to come into McFarland. So this is really going to pump we hope, a lot of money and interest into our community. The library, my staff is actually doing a farm to table dinner on Thursday night and a 5K Saturday. And then I kind of stupidly took on the job of being the logistics or project manager. So for the last 3 weeks, have been coordinating tent rentals and sound systems and stuff. I've learned a lot, but I don't necessarily recommend it if you have a full-time job. So.
Thank you. You had mentioned some of those things to me, so I wanted to make sure that everyone got a chance to hear all the things that you're doing. There aren't any questions come in yet, but you mentioned, there is a question, and this could be for all three of you. And then my question was, you had mentioned just briefly or touched briefly on the foundation and friends and how they work together. And I know Sun Prairie has a similar they have a foundation and a friends group as well. So I think that's good information for people to know that those organizations can work together in fundraising.
And our endowment's actually way younger than our friends. So what we ended up doing is when we created that committee, we have a friends member on that committee. So it's a library board member, a friends member, and like someone from the community and myself. So then that way the communication was always going back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Yes, communication is very important. Mm-hmm. There's a question, have you raised any money by applying for foundation grants? And this can be for Heidi and for Christy and Shweta.
Yeah, I have over the years. And we've used the database from Marquette University to try to identify some. If you're trying to do that, I'd recommend talking to your community foundation if you have one, because they'll help you find the family foundations, and those are really difficult to get funds from. And trying to identify, I think a good strategy, if you can do it, is try to identify who the administrator is and make sure that your values align, so you don't spend a lot of time going through all of the work for application to find out that they only fund the Boys and Girls Clubs or something like that.
So yeah, we actually received money through the Fond du Lac Area Foundation, so it's kind of a local one. We've actually decided to start an endowment with them prior, so sat down and talked with them, and we actually made our pitch to the whole board and seeing if they would give us some support, and they actually gave us enough money for a naming opportunity, so that always helps too.
Yeah, and like Heidi said, we have been communicating with the Madison Community Foundation, which serves our area. We've received small grants for other projects, but we are talking with them now more about what we might be eligible for in terms of capital campaign.
Thank you. I was also going to put in the chat some of the grant webinars that we did earlier this year, because that we had some information on finding those grants and applying for them. So I will find those and put them in the link in the link in the chat. I'm going to say it that way.
Yeah, and there are some grants that are not going to fund capital projects. They outline that pretty specifically.
Right.
So
yep.
Depends on what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so some actually, that brings up a good point. So some we kind of put on a back burner, like, okay, when we're ready for furniture, we're ready for programs, we'll know who to contact. But Sveta brings up a good point that some will not give to brick and mortar type expansions or buildings. So one thing to also keep in mind, if you guys are starting a capital campaign by any means, be ready to talk about it 24/7, whether you're filling up gas and somebody comes over to talk to you or you're in a store. People are always asking questions, where you're at, how's it going, whatever. You just seem to live, breathe, and are always talking about it. So that's just a heads up.
Oh, and I just remembered, I have another recommendation for a database. If you're out there looking for software, there's one called, the one we use is called Little Green Lantern, and it runs around the $500 a year range. I highly recommend it. It's all cloud-based. We started using it because our friends membership was on an Excel spreadsheet, and the person who was the membership coordinator abruptly moved to Nebraska and took our list with him. So we had to recreate it. And so this has really helped. And because it's in the cloud, then not one person is stuck with the accounting or the all the updating.
And Samantha, what was that boomerang?
Boomerang. Yeah. And
okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know what the cost of it is. I think it's probably more than Little Green Lantern. And I don't know that it's cloud-based, so.
And Boomerang kind of helped pull in information from the accounting software that the
From
library is
QuickBooks.
already using.
Yeah,
QuickBooks.
that's right.
Okay.
Mhm.
And Little Green Lantern does too. It coordinates with QuickBooks.
Yeah.
And we did get another question in from Catherine. Quick question, how much do you involve library staff? Do they have elevator pitches at the desk, or do you handle it all yourself?
Yeah, we have quite a few documents, but it can get overwhelming. So we have created two-sided frequently asked questions so that our staff could answer, confidently questions, or if they didn't even want to do that, they'd be able to point someone to that or hand them a physical piece of paper and with all of my information on there. So my staff will direct questions to me, and if they need to go to the foundation, I can bring them to the foundation. That way they don't even have to think or guess who this should go to.
And we use brochures and we talk about it in our staff meetings and that type of thing. But depending on kind of what question they have, I would like them to talk to me, especially if they're considering, putting us on their will. I want to make that relationship and know who they are so that we can stay in contact with them.
Yeah, so I mean, same with me. I definitely love to talk to the donors myself. Otherwise, yeah, we have the pamphlets and handouts, and sometimes, I'll put together kind of like a summary. So as things change or as more donations come in and I share those little picture stories, I'll just print it out on a little pamphlet. So it's ready to just hand out and say, this is what we're doing, where we're at. But yeah, I mean, I love to talk to each and every donor personally.
I think while we are winding up, I know a couple of you had wanted to share that CBS Sunday Morning clip. Can you tell folks what that is about, and we can share the link in the chat?
Yeah, it was, I think if you just look up, go on Google and do Beyond Books, Modern Public Library, CBS Sunday Morning. They did a segment, I want to say it was either in July or August, but this summer on the Modern Public Library. It's about 7 minutes long. And I think it's a really good story to share with any committees that you're working with to inspire the work that we're doing.
Yeah, it is a great little video clip. Like Sveta said, only 7 minutes. Because I do get a lot of questions like, okay, you're expanding, but it doesn't look like you're going to have that many more books or that many more, resources. But really the point of our expansion is just more workspace, more computers, more sit down space. Just having only one workable table, it gets used an awful lot. But I mean, as we are expanding, we are getting more resources. But I mean, this Beyond the Books little clip just really enhances how important libraries are and how we just changed with the times.
Well, great. Thank you, everybody. Elizabeth says she just showed that video to her library board of trustees. It's perfect.
It is. Yeah, I shared it with my friends board, village board.
So good, so good. So we're right at the 3 o'clock mark. Let's see, I'm just seeing if there's more questions that are coming in. No more questions, it looks like. A lot of thank yous and appreciation for your presentations. Let's see, I will, I can turn my webcam back on so you know who it is. Here I am. I do want to thank all three presenters, Christy, Heidi, and Svetha, for their great presentations and their time and pulling together this information and sharing it with us. And thanks to Jean Anderson for being my co-host, and to all of you for taking the time to join us this afternoon. I'll follow up tomorrow afternoon to send you an email that will have links to the recording, an evaluation form, and the CE activity report form. Also, when you exit the webinar, there will be an opportunity to fill out the evaluation form right away when you leave the webinar. So with that, I will stop the recording and wish you all a good afternoon.
And
Goodbye.
good luck for all the campaigns out there. Must be some interest, so best of luck.